I'll start. So, without further ado, everybody, I'm Dean Lucy Foster, and I am so honored and pleased to have Professor Ron Richter here. He is an outstanding finance professor and a tremendous colleague. And if you are considering finance as a major, you really have come to the right person to find out everything you can know about the 3 separate tracks that are available in finance and all the interesting careers that can follow in this major. So we're also fortunate to have 2 of his top students join, Mustafa and Evan. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over this session to Professor Ron Richter.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm assuming you can hear me, so that's all good. Again, my name is Ron Richter. I'm a professor here at Rutgers University. You guys can call me Ron. I also, besides having Dean Foster here, who I think will be a great resource if you have questions, not just about finance, but really what it means to become a business school student and some of the different requirements and course sequencing. I think she can help you with that. And during my presentation, I put it up on the screen, but Dean Foster or my 2 students, who I'm going to introduce in a second, will probably have more to shed light on that than I would, because I'm sort of specific in the finance area. In addition to having Dean Foster, I have 2 of my students who have graciously given up their Friday night. But then again, I think every night is a Friday night or a Monday. We don't even know whatever day it is. It's this day, all right? So I met, I'll introduce Mustafa first. Mustafa Pacha is a student I met as a freshman. He is I would say, not to embarrass him here, a star at the business school. He definitely is someone who makes things happen. I knew that from a freshman when we started interacting with our financial planning club. And it just seems, Mustafa, that when I turn my head somewhere in the building, you seem to always be there. And he is a finance major on the capital markets track, correct?
Yeah.
So we have 3 different tracks here in finance, which we'll touch upon. But he maybe at that point, Mustafa, you can talk a little more about that. But with that, Mustafa, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to the group that we have?
So yeah, I'm Mustafa. If you didn't already know, finance major at Rutgers Business School, specifically on the Newark campus. I also live on campus, so if you have any questions with that, I'd be happy to answer. I'm also in the honors learning living community, if any of you guys are familiar with that. But in terms of my identity at the business school, I am in Alpha, the Association of Latino Professionals for America, which I'm VP of Consulting in. And I, like Professor Richter said, I'm really involved on campus. And I have done internships at a personal wealth management company at Johnson & Johnson last year. And then this summer, I'm supposed to be headed to JP Morgan. So you can ask me about any of my experiences, and I'd be happy to share.
Great. Thanks, Mustafa. Now, my second student is Evan. Evan and I met each other last year in the classes that I teach, because I head up the financial planning track here at Rutgers Business School, and Evan has chosen that track for his studies and here at Rutgers University. So, Evan, do you want to do a little quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Evan Amin. I'm a finance major, specifically financial planning, and I have a concentration in MIS. Like Mustafa, I'm also involved on campus. I became the treasurer for BASE this semester. Fortunately, got cut short, but I have been involved with them for the past couple of semesters. And like Mustafa said, if you guys have any questions, I commute to campus, so a little different than Mustafa. He stays on campus. I can kind of give you some ideas, and just if you have any questions involving commuting to campus, parking, different things like that, I can answer those questions as well. And if you have any questions, my internship I've been at since last May. I started there last May, ran through August, and I was asked to stay during school, and now I will be starting there full time. So it's a private importing company. I'm on IT side over there, doing ERP specifically. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know, and I could always assist you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Evan. Can you do me one favor though? Can you explain to them what BASE is? You're the treasurer of BASE. What does BASE mean?
Yeah, so BASE is the Business Business Association of Supply Chain Expertise. So I specifically am involved with them mainly because I wanted to kind of get involved in something outside of my major. So supply chain is really, really big. You will come to find out in Rutgers Business School, and just in general, that supply chain is a very big, big major that is a lot of people are going into right now. And so I wanted to really get involved, and I have a lot of friends that are involved with BASE. So I wanted to get involved with this organization because of the fact that it's not my major, it's not in my concentration, but I still want to get involved with an organization that I can be, you know, I can see into a different field of study that, oh, okay, this is, you know, I still get to go to case studies, which, you know, we bring in companies and they give us the issues they are having and we help solve them. So still get involved in these different areas of supply chain, but not necessarily studying that specific area. So I wanted to really get involved with this organization because it allows me to do that. So, which was really fun and interesting for me. And you guys will see that on campus. There's a lot of different organizations that you guys can get involved with and interact with a lot of different people and different, you know, different majors and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Evan. So what I'd like to do now is, again, I'm a professor of finance. I'll give you a little bit about my background. I graduated Rutgers in 1988 and then went to grad school, but I've been a part-time, we call them part-time lecturers, or you may have heard the term adjunct professors for Rutgers for about 24 years and came on full-time 4 years ago. So what was I doing before I was full-time here? I worked in corporate finance, worked my way up in corporations, working basically in the treasury department of companies, doing treasury consulting, and then worked my way up to a CFO at a couple companies, smaller companies, and then left there to get into wealth management. So I got into the other side of finance, or a different side of finance, from the corporate finance side into the personal finance side. And I continue to be involved in that with a book of business of about 30 clients. Who right now, actually 2 weeks ago, it was kind of crazy talking to them all about what's happening with the market and with Corona. But now it's really died down because we're kind of in a wait and see attitude, and my clients are actually fairly quiet right now, which is to me is fine. So that's what I do, and then I teach full time at Rutgers. I head up the financial planning track, which you'll learn about the 3 different tracks within finance. But I've also taught in the capital markets track. I teach corporate finance classes, and I've done it both in Newark and also in New Brunswick. So that's my background. And what I'd like to do now is I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation. So let me get this up on the screen. So you should see the PowerPoint presentation that says Rutgers Business School, what it's like to be a finance major. Do you guys see that on the screen? Evan, can you give me a thumbs up if you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
All right,
we
great.
see it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. You know, you're sitting in your house here doing stuff. You have no idea if you're. I've given presentations before, and about
So
10 minutes
true.
in, yeah, 5-10 minutes in, someone says, "You know, we can't see it," and I'm like, "No, didn't know it." Let me go, let me start over again, right?
I also wanted to echo that if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and then hopefully me and Evan can answer them, or we'll defer them to Professor Richter.
Yeah, so you're a little ahead of me there, Mustafa. So I have kind of how the session guidelines will go. We should have you guys all on mute. I know we have a couple people, it looks like they phone called in. But if we don't have them on mute, kind of just, if you can just keep it down so the background noise sometimes can take advantage of what we're trying to talk about. If anyone does have any questions during the presentation, you can put them in the chat room. We do have a fairly small group tonight, so that's fine. So I think we can put them in the chat room as I'm going through it, and then we'll address them, either Evan or Mustafa or Dean Foster can, or we'll just break into me and we'll answer those questions. Those moderators are Dean Foster and Evan and Mustafa. And we can, some of the questions may be addressed by me directly in the chat room, and or by them directly in the chat room, or be addressed by the presenter, depending what your questions are. And then when we're all done, we'll have a little Q&A. So I've got about maybe a 30-minute presentation, if that. So feel free to listen, and I'm going to take you through what it means to be to look at finance as a career first, and then I want to take you through a little 3 PowerPoint lesson on initial public offerings, talk a little about that because that's something that we talk about in finance, and that hits both the corporate side and also on the banking side, but also on the personal finance side. So I just want to take you through a little lesson that will take about 7 minutes, 7 minutes. And then lastly, we'll go through all the requirements it is to be a finance major at Rutgers Business School. So where can you focus in finance? So I broke it down into 3 sections. The first section is banking. And when we think of banking, there's a lot of different areas of banking that a finance person, or if you're building your finance career, could take root in the banking area. So you can get involved in what we call originations, or IPOs, which stand for initial public offering. So this is when a company is trying to raise capital in the marketplace and they need to raise it either in the stock market through what we call equity, or they raise it through the debt markets. You could get involved in trading, and there's many areas of focus in trading. It's not just trading of stocks. You could be trading bonds. You could be trading what we call derivative products like options, futures, forwards, which you could learn about in the finance area. You can trade different currencies. You could trade different commodities like wheat or oil and things like that. So that's an area you can get into on the banking side if you major in finance. Another area is you can help companies with their mergers and acquisitions. All right, so one company is buying another, or a company wants to sell off a piece of their company, like years and years ago when McDonald's sold off Chipotle. Investment bankers are involved in helping consult with those organizations and trying to, whether it's buy another company, merge with a company, or sell off a division. We have what we call financial risk management. This is an area that is fairly big, where companies try to manage risks within their business. One risk I'll spend time on is maybe currency risk, that if one currency strengthens vis-a-vis another currency, that affects how a company's profitability and cash flows will occur. So banks will get involved in helping those companies manage those risks, and it could be currency, it could be interest rate risk, whatever it may be. And again, we have courses. We have a course called derivatives. We have a course here that I teach on occasion called treasury management, which talks about how companies manage that type of risk within their business. We have just treasury services, how companies pay their bills, how they collect their money, how they finance themselves, not just through public markets, but also through private deals that they may make with banks or insurance companies. And then we have in banking, you could get involved in just loaning money, which is the credit side, and loaning money to businesses. And then on the other side is when businesses have excess cash, they want to invest it, you can work with them and help them on the investment side. So in the banking area, these are some of the partners that we have for our students. I think, Mustafa, you said JP Morgan is your firm?
Yep.
Yep. So I could say I put that up there by design, but that is just by luck that I added on there, knowing Mustafa would be. But you can see some of the banks that are there: Citibank, JP Morgan. I've been doing a lot of work with Citibank over the last 4 years, incorporating them in my classroom, but also giving opportunities for students where we had we called it a treasury boot camp, which was a 2-day activity that we had with Citibank with case study competition, but really having students understand how does a bank deal with the treasury of a corporation and how does a corporation deal with it. And then actually right before the coronavirus quarantine hit, and Mustafa was part of this, we partnered with Citibank to do what we call a solve-a-thon. And you'll see these different activities on campus all the time where we partner maybe with a corporation or a bank, and we have them come in and you do case studies that not just as students, but in relation with the company to maybe help solve a problem of the company. Mustafa, I know you're a key person who likes to get involved in this. I think you also have done the Johnson & Johnson one. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've done the J&J one. I did the City one with you guys a couple weeks ago, which focused on treasury services. And I've also done the National Diversity Case Competition, which was out in Indiana.
Right. So there's one of the things I think when you get to college, and this is a little different than when you were in high school or even if you're at a community college and transferring, is that when we have these relationships with these companies, and these case studies albeit it's extra work outside of the classroom, it's probably where you learn the most. I can see Mustafa shaking his head a little bit, but I mean, Mustafa, do you want to touch upon that? Like, why do you think that's an opportunity to learn?
So basically, you try and learn in the classroom, right? You get good grades, if you can, but then on top of that, it's not really enough, in order to truly understand and apply everything that you've learned. I think that when I first did the Johnson and Johnson case competition, I really understood, like, oh, okay, like this is actually how the financial statements work and how they're used in order to make like financing decisions. And I feel like there would have been like a little bit of a gap in my knowledge if I didn't get the chance to apply that information. And it also gives you an opportunity to like be a self-starter. So I think I was a sophomore when I did that case competition, and I had no idea what half of the words were, on the case, but I was able to just kind of try and figure it out along the way and do my best, and self-teach myself so that later on in other coursework, it made more sense to me. I could use my Johnson and Johnson case competition experiences and apply it to the classroom.
And I think another thing, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is the networking possibilities, right? The opportunities to meet people is so paramount to building your career. At the Citibank Solvathon that we had on March 6th, besides if your team won, they actually the winning prize was a first round interview, like getting through the screening process, right? So that's important. And we probably had about a dozen Citibank people there, and I'm sure, I know Mustafa knew this, but the interview actually started the morning when we were getting coffee, because they're having an opportunity to speak with these people, and they are out there trying to figure out who would be a good fit. So these companies do this all the time, and I think the networking opportunities are tremendous when it comes to that. So think beyond the classroom. If I could give any message, beyond the classroom would be good. Now, another area that you can get involved in finance, if you're taking a look at the PowerPoints, is corporate finance. And that's where I spent a lot of my life, or at least the first half of my career. These are different things that you can deal with. You can deal with domestic and international cash management. So how does a company manage its cash receipts, its cash payments, both domestically and also around the world? How does a company invest and borrow? Right. So companies that have excess money, they invest, or they have a deficit, they need to borrow. But we call this really liquidity management. And liquidity is just making sure you have the right amount of cash at the right time in the right place. That's what we try to do from a corporate perspective. Financial risk management. So just like we had up there that the banks help corporations manage it, well, corporations have to deal with it, right? So they will partner with banks to understand how to deal with the change of currencies or the change of commodities, right? If you think of a airplane company, right? If you think of Delta or United, fuel is a very big component of their cost, and fuel prices go up, they go down, and you have to deal with that. Capital raising, getting money in the markets so that you can actually grow your business. So if any of you are Shark Tank fans like I am, it's really Shark Tank is a nice way of looking at finance from a very simple perspective, but it's really kind of the same thing that we teach in the classroom, in that a company wants to grow, it's out of financial resources, so then it starts to go to other people to try to get money. So that is what we call the capital raising to help a company achieve its strategic plan. We have long-term investing that can occur on the corporate finance side. So maybe you're investing pension funds. So you have to understand the difference between the risk-reward relationship on stocks versus bonds versus cash and versus other types of investment asset classes. So we have a bunch of companies that we partner with here. Again, here are some of the names. It's not all, by the way, this is not all of the names. I had to put Johnson and Johnson on there because Johnson and Johnson is so important to Rutgers University, and New Jersey. We have Unilever, which is a consumer products company, L'Oreal for cosmetics. And you could see the companies on the bottom, Amazon, Merck, again, another pharmaceutical. And then Stryker. We've had, sorry for my dog in the background here. Stryker is a medical device manufacturer that makes a lot of like knee replacements, hip replacements, and it's in northern New Jersey, northwest New Jersey. Around the Mahwah area. And we've had a lot of students get internships there, but also starting full time. A lot of these companies, whether it be the the group at the top, the banks or the corporations, they have these programs that when you come in as a new hire, and a lot of people intern there first, and then once they intern, a lot of them do get offered the job, and they come in as a new hire. They usually have a 2 to maybe even a 3-year training program where they rotate you in different areas of the company, maybe every 4 months or 6 months, to give you exposure. And then from that exposure, that they'll usually find a fit for you. So a lot of these programs, or a lot of these companies, have those types of programs. And then the last area of finance I wanted to highlight is investment management. And on the investment management side, we have private equity. This is where companies are private, so they're not traded on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ exchange. And there's companies that go out and try to invest in these private companies with the hopes that they will eventually either go public or be sold. We have hedge funds, which are investment funds. When we say the word hedge funds, we really don't know what that means. We have to look at the strategy of what that fund manager is doing. But usually they're looking at stocks or bonds, and they're using some other financial instruments to help with their returns. We have mutual fund houses like the Vanguards or the Fidelities or the T. Rowe Prices. And these are companies that invest other people's money. You see them a lot in 401k plans or in people's individual retirement accounts. And then we have pension funds. So there are a lot of pension funds out there, although they are getting less and less. But their pension funds are rather large, like the New Jersey pension funds is billions and billions of dollars. And on the investment management side, you can assist with either making those investment decisions or selling those investment decisions to those pension funds. And here's a listing of those companies that you may see there. Blackstone, which is one of the largest investment firms in the world. You see Fidelity on there. You may have heard of them. Merrill Lynch, Vanguard, again, another very large one. Lord Abbett is more on the mutual fund side company. I think they're in Jersey City, or definitely, yeah, I think they're Jersey City. And then Northwest Mutual. So in my area, the financial planning track, these are some of the companies that my students may get more involved with than the group at the top that we see. So I just want to give you a little idea of what an IPO is. So just bear with me for about 5 or 6 minutes for this little finance lesson. Initial public offering, or what we call an IPO. I have 3 companies there that I'm sure you're familiar with in Lyft, Facebook, and Twitter. These companies all went public not too long ago, meaning that they went out to the markets to raise capital. So that initial public offering, as you can see by the first bullet here, is when the sale of the stock, and it could be bonds also, but we'll say with stock or ownership in the business, is sold to the public. So now the public can buy and sell that stock once it's sold to the public. And prior to that IPO, the company is considered private. And there's a very small number of shareholders, and there's not a very good liquidity in the marketplace because the stock is not sold every single day on an exchange. It can only be sold privately. So those owners don't have any value yet that they realize. They have value on paper, but sometimes it's hard to realize that because you want to get into the public markets where you all of a sudden have liquidity, which is being able to turn that stock into cash. And then after going public, if a company goes public, like when Lyft went public not too long ago, that now stock trades on an exchange, and it buys and sells in what we call the secondary markets. So why do companies go public? Like, what's the point of going public? One is to try to maximize shareholder value, which means if I go public, I can now get more cash to grow my business. I can start maximizing the value of the business proposition I have, whether that be a product or a service. Another one is I need to raise money. I just need money to raise it, to grow the business. And I mean, these are somewhat entwined, right? To increase shareholder value. I'm not going to spend money on nothing. I'm going to spend it to get a return. So companies try to raise money. And when we go public, it's because we're trying to raise large amounts of money. It's not, if we're going for small amounts, we could maybe do that privately. But if we're doing large amounts, we probably have to go out more to the public markets to be able to get all that money that we need. Another area is we want to create an acquisition currency and add liquidity. This is what I talked about before, that once it's public, we can now buy and sell that stock, right? So every single day we can buy and sell it. But when it's private, we can't because not anyone can own us. So here's a quote from Mark Zuckerberg, right? The guy who put together Facebook. And one of the reasons he went public, this is a quote from him, is he said, "We're going public for our employees and our investors. We made a commitment to them when we gave them equity, which is stock in the business, that we work hard to make it worth a lot and make it liquid, meaning that you could sell it into cash. And this IPO is fulfilling our commitment." So when when Facebook went public, I think it was 2013 or 12. We're going to look at a slide that will have the exact date. They were trying to raise $16 billion. Now that's a lot of money. So that they could not do a private deal with. They needed to find investors from all over the world who would invest in it because it was such a large amount of money. And lastly, if we go public, we start to increase the company awareness. A company that went public not too long ago, it's almost a year now, was Zoom. I know you guys definitely know Zoom based upon what's happening in life. But Zoom went public, and it definitely increased the company awareness. And then obviously like this coronavirus thing, I think really catapulted Zoom actually, as the stock market has been down 25 to 30%, depending on what day we look at it now. Zoom is actually up, or it was a couple of days ago, up over 100% for the year, right? Except I think it went down after Zoom bombing came out and the K through 12 schools took it off the shelf. But let me just list a couple IPOs here. I'm not going to go through every single one, but this is a chart and something I would talk to my students about in my corporate finance classes as we evaluate these. We can see that Facebook went out, it was 2012 at $38 a share. That was the price per share that they had it. We would talk about in finance, how do they come up with that price? You will learn how they come up with these prices, on what they think they should sell it in the marketplace. Then we will talk about when it starts trading, what does it really start trading at? So it actually started trading at $45, even though it was initially sold at 38. And at the end of the first day, it kind of closed pretty close to what it was initially sold at, and they raised $16 billion. So in finance, we're going to talk about these things. So if you think of Facebook, or let's go down to Zoom here, when they went public, they have a corporate finance person who's trying to figure out, if we're going to go public, what should we sell it at? What should be the price? And I mean, you see this on Shark Tank when they ask, what's the price that you want, and what's it compared to the profitability of the company or the cash flows of the company. So we do that in finance, and we learn that. The banks assist those corporate finance people, and then the investment people get involved because they're trying to look at this as an investment to see is it going to give a return or not that is applicable with the risk. So I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about these, just give you an idea that everything is somewhat intertwined. So whether we go to the banking side or we get into the corporate finance side or the investment side, they're very, very intertwined. And if you decide to major in finance here at Rutgers, I think you'll get a nice synergy of all those different disciplines as you go through. And actually, we just have a new third track, which we're going to talk about on the next few slides, which is our real estate track, which is in the finance area. So with that, let me go through the curriculum in finance. And this is where I think Dean Foster, if you want to chime in at any time, you're more than welcome to, obviously, or if Evan and Mustafa would like to. The first thing we do is we have these pre-eligibility courses at the business school. So it doesn't, at this point, you don't have to say you're a finance major, you can declare you're a finance major, but you're really not going to get into the finance courses yet. So we have these pre-eligibility courses, and I'm going to go through them. We have financial accounting, managerial accounting, and accounting is very important because it's the language of business. So specifically in finance, we kind of tear apart these financial statements, whether they be income statements or balance sheets or cash flow statements, and we have to understand the accounting lingo because otherwise you will not be successful. So we have you take 2 accounting courses. We also want to understand economics, so we have micro and macroeconomics. Management information systems, which I guess this is sort of the intro class that you need to take. Statistics, we use a lot of statistics, specifically in finance, we use a lot of statistics. Maybe if you're a marketing major, you probably use a lot in marketing when you start to get into data analysis. But definitely on the finance side, when we're looking at returns of different investments, we do look at stat information in order to do that. We have applied calculus or calculus 1, so we do ask you to do some critical thinking on the math side. English comp 1 and 2. So this is a total of 28 credits. If I added them up correctly, it's all are 3 credits except for 1, right? The math is a 4 credit course. And these are what we call our pre-eligibility courses. So I don't know, Dean Foster, do you want to touch upon these a little bit, when you can take them?
Finance is, if you'll see when you get your curriculum guide sheet, that it is the only course in your business core classes that insist upon you must have all of these classes completed. So if you're at a community college right now and you're ready to graduate, but you're missing applied calculus or calculus, you will not be able to register for finance in the fall unless you have all of these classes completed. So I always urge students, if you can, try to take it this summer, either summer 1 or summer 2 at your institution. It will throw you off a little bit by a semester because it means you'll have to do the calculus in the fall, and then in the spring you will do finance and then take the other courses that Professor Ron is going to enumerate.
Yeah. So that's the key. So in finance, when we put our curriculum together, we're the only department that really require that calculus, applied calc or calc, to be done before you enter into the finance world. But all the other majors, you don't need that, right? So then we get into, okay. So then we have our business core courses. So it doesn't matter what you major in business school at Rutgers, we also have business core. So if you decide to major in finance, you still have to take a marketing class. You still have to take a supply chain class. So we give you those intro classes. We also have a course called business policy when you're a senior, which sort of integrates all the different disciplines in business to get sort of a multidisciplinary way of looking at the world. So we have a bunch of business core courses that you have to take if you are a business student. And we have one course called Business Forum, which is which I think is a great idea. It's really about soft skills, right? It's really teaching students kind of resume writing, interviewing skills, communication skills. They'll have guest speakers come in and talk about different disciplines, whether it be disciplines that we teach at the business school or disciplines out there in the real world. And every student must take the Business Forum. So when we look at this listing of courses, everybody must take these courses. You have to take either business ethics or business law. If you're an accounting major, you're required to take business law. But if you're not an accounting major, you take business ethics. I'm guessing that Evan and Mustafa, you probably took ethics, is my guess?
Yeah, ethics and business.
Okay, so business law is required for accounting majors because if you're going to sit for the CPA, there is a law section in the CPA exam. But you have to take one or the other. And you can take business law as a non-accounting major if you'd like. You have to take finance. So this is the intro to finance class. Again, you need to have the calculus done or the pre-calc or applied calc, I'm sorry, in order to take that. Intro to management, management skills. So management skills is a course that we usually, intro to management may be a very big class, like a big lecture hall type class, but management skills we like to keep in small cohorts, somewhere around the 40 to 45 range, because you're actually doing activity-based learning related to different management skills that you may have. We have an international business course that you must take. Business policy and strategy, and this is taken as a senior level course. Evan, I guess, are you taking that now? Or you took it?
Yeah, I took it last semester. Yeah, that one is only seniors. You have to wait to your senior year to take it. There's no exceptions on that one. They wait until your senior year because they want you have all your other kind of classes out of the way, or your more basic ones. And so I took that last semester, and that one's, like you said, that one's very, very more into the corporate, more like you learn about how businesses operate. And that one's a very deep class, and you'll learn a very lot. I learned a lot in that class. So that one's one you'll take your last two semesters.
Did you have Professor Market by chance, or no?
No, I had Aviad Pierre.
Okay, I don't know if you did it. I know Professor Market does a business simulation kind of game in the class, and you actually have to put a team together with maybe a marketing major, with a finance major, with an accounting major, supply chain major, and you all take different roles in a company, and then you simulate how the company is going to run. That's pretty cool, and I've been involved with Market's class in making some presentations and judging the teams and stuff. It's kind of fun stuff to do. We have product operations management, which is in our supply chain area. Business research methods is another course that you need to take. And then intro to marketing, and then intro to supply chain. So when we look at all of this, it's a total of 32 credits that you need to take no matter what business major you are. So we started with 28 as kind of the preliminary classes, 28 credits. Then we have another 32. So we're at 60 credits so far. And then, again, every business major would be taking this. Now, what we have here at Business School in Newark, it's a little different than we have in New Brunswick. Actually, I think we have a much broader offering up here in Newark than we have in New Brunswick. We have 3 different areas that you can major, or we call them tracks within finance. So think of these are areas of focus. So you can focus on financial management and capital markets, and that's what Mustafa is doing. You can do the financial planning track, which is what Evan's doing. And then we have a fairly new track called the real estate track. So what I want to do in the next few slides, and what I'll do is I will post this link on the chat room. And Dean Foster, you can also have it. So if anybody ever wants this presentation, they can grab it. But if we clicked on these names here, we can actually get to the hyperlinks of where they are on the website for Rutgers Newark. But what I did was I actually made slides out of them. So on the financial management and capital markets class, you have 4 classes that you're required to take. So in finance, just like we have it for the business program, we have required courses and elective courses. So for this track, the financial management and capital markets track, you have 4 required courses. One is econometrics, which is a higher level economics class. Not always the most favored, I think, by a lot of our students. It's not that they struggle through it, but I think if they had a choice of avoiding it, maybe they would. I don't know. You have investments, corporate finance, and financial institutions, or we call it financial institutions and markets. So if you're a finance major, you must take these 4 classes. And then you get to choose electives, and you get 4 elective choices. So now you can focus on maybe the area where your career is going, or maybe where you want to try, right? I think it's important to use college as an opportunity to try different things and see sometimes what you like, and sometimes more importantly, what you don't like. So we have ethics and finance, financial statement and security analysis, international financial management, derivatives, which is using products like forwards, futures, options, swaps to help manage that financial risk of a business. And don't be alarmed if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. That is perfectly okay. That's why we call this school. We have treasury management, which is the course that I talk about or teach often, which is really how does a corporate treasurer run their business? If you were the treasurer of Nike, the treasurer of Procter & Gamble, or even the treasurer of Rutgers University. We have analysis and fixed income. So this is where we look at bonds, which is what we call fixed income. Security analysis, which is looking at specifically investments. So it's a little different than the financial statement and security analysis. It's just focused just on investments, not so much on the financial statements. We have finance of fashion and other creative pursuits. So we actually have here, if you are interested in fashion, we do have a program where you can focus on that and get a concentration in the fashion area. Real estate and capital markets is another course you could take. Real estate finance. And then we have special topics in finance. And so we try to keep our offerings to you sometimes fresh. So we will come up with professors who will come up with ideas on things they want to teach. I know we had, with the world changing and getting into artificial intelligence, I believe there's a course, I don't know if it's at the undergraduate level, I know it's at the graduate level, but maybe we'll bring it down to the undergraduate level on using artificial intelligence in looking at finance. And then we have pension fund management. And then we have finance internships and cooperatives. So actually you can get credits for doing some internships. And lastly, I've had students work with me, and I know other professors have. If none of these things are interesting you, we can talk about an independent study and work independently with a professor. I did that when I was an undergrad, and I've probably done well over a dozen of them since I've been at Rutgers in sort of sponsoring a student and helping mentor and guide a student through a topic that maybe we don't offer and they're interested in it. So with all of this, it's a total of 24 credits that you would take that would be in finance if you are a financial management and capital markets track person. So that's what you would take. And again, the key here is you have your required courses and then you have elective courses under this track. Under the financial planning track, it's a little different. We don't have really any elective courses, right, Evan? Everything's kind of required here.
Everything's required, all 7 classes. Yep.
Yeah. So we do have 3 required courses that you take. I'm sorry, we have to take these courses. Now, keep in mind, you have to take finance. So everyone has to take intro to finance, but then you have to take investments and financial institutions and markets. So if you're not sure which track you want to go, both of them have investments and financial institutions and markets. So you can start to take them and then start to figure out where I'm going to go within a track. Then after that, we start to get into the financial planning curriculum. And there are a total of 5 courses here that you need to take. Financial planning and insurance. This is where you learn about the financial planning process and how insurance is used, whether it's health insurance, life insurance, disability, or long-term care insurance, and I'm sure I'm missing a few, to help someone manage their own personal risk. We have estate planning. This is where people, you learn about how people prepare their estate to have their assets to go to where they want it to upon their death, and how we do that before and after, related to the tax laws and also just the regular laws related to when someone passes away, how do assets move. We have retirement planning. You learn in this class a lot about the different retirement plans that are available. You may have heard things like 401ks or IRAs, but really there's probably about 15 to 17 different plans out there. And then we will also discuss Social Security and how people actually plan for their overall retirement. Taxation issues affecting the financial planning. So almost everything that we do in the financial planning process does have a tax effect. So you will learn about a lot about personal taxes. And then we finish up with a capstone course, which is a course that is a case study approach to how we look at the financial planning model. So we actually go through the financial planning model in the first half of the class. In the second half of the class, we actually dissect a family, not open them up fully, like literally, but figuratively, to understand their financial needs. And then we attack all the different aspects of their financial planning life. So this is a total of 21 credits. So if you do the financial planning track, it's actually 3 credits less than the capital markets track. And the reason why we really don't have any electives, these are all required, is because this track is tied in and approved by the Certified Financial Planning Board, or what we call CFPs. I happen to be a CFP for my business of wealth management. And if you take the courses here and get your degree here, our course is sanctioned that now you can sit for the exam. So you can actually get that certification. In order to sit for the exam, you have to go through an educational component, and we are certified to be able to allow that opportunity for our students. Now, the last track that we have, somewhat new, I think, Lucy, it's only a couple of years old, maybe, right? The real estate?
Yeah, and we're about to launch it this fall. So
launch it. Okay, so it's really new. Okay.
Yeah, it's really new.
Yeah, we had it as a concentration, right, where you could take 3.
Correct.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about
it. As a concentration, but the actual real estate track is going to be launched this fall.
Right. So this is very new. So we have 3 required courses. We have investments, real estate law, and real estate finance. And then after that, and development. So you have to take those 4 classes. And then you have to take 3 electives, and these are the electives that we have: real estate and capital markets, property management and real estate investment management, market analysis, feasibility, analysis of fixed income. So at the end of the day, with the 4 required and the 3 electives, it's total 21 credits. Now, the real estate guys, I'm not a real estate guy. The person who heads that center is Morris Davis, but I told Morris that I would talk to you guys about it. They have done an unbelievably good job of partnering with corporate real estate firms. They are probably the lead, I think, at the business school. Is maybe supply chain could battle them a little bit on scholarships. So they have given out hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships to students who have been involved in the real estate concentration. And because I think of our success and building those relationships with those real estate firms, we've been able to now focus that in as a full major. So that's an opportunity for you too. You can see that on every major, the investment class is there. Could you double major? I guess you could. but you have to really map out your years. If you come in as a transfer, I think that could be somewhat challenging, or because of the time frame that you have. But if you came in as a freshman, it's probably a little flexible and easier to do so. But even if you don't, if you were interested in, let's say, the capital markets and the personal finance, but you want to also dabble in real estate, you can do a concentration. We offer concentrations in a number of areas where it's only 3 classes, I believe, right? Yeah. So I don't know if Evan and Mustafa, are you guys concentrating anywhere?
Yeah, I'm doing MIS. So I do
MIS concentration. Okay.
Yep, Management Information Systems, and it's only 3.
Okay.
3 separate courses. You can't double dip from other courses.
Right. So that have to be 3 separate courses. And Mustafa, are you minoring?
The
You're
real estate
minoring.
concentration.
You do have the real estate concentration.
Yeah. So I have a minor in computer science and a concentration in real estate.
Yeah. So there's different ways that you can go. I think there's enough flexibility at Rutgers where sometimes I think it's almost so much flexibility that it may drive our students a little crazy. But you can dabble a little in finance. You can dabble a little bit, as Evan said, in MIS. Mustafa's getting his hand dirty a little bit in real estate. And I think what that does probably makes you more marketable, right? That you have more of a broader education, because you never know where you're going to end up, right? Your career is going to take many different turns. It's easy to look backward to find out how you got there, but when you're moving forward, you need to make yourself marketable and separate yourself from other people. And I think within the finance area, I think we actually give a fairly broad range of flexibility to allow people to kind of pick and choose what they'd want to do as you move forward. Another program that I do want to talk about is the program called the Road to Wall Street. The Road to Wall Street is a program that we started in New Brunswick, but now we also have opened it up to Newark recently, I think. I don't know, is it just this year or maybe a couple of years we've had it open?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. So it's fairly new. Yeah.
Yeah, fairly new. It's been around for 9 years with Rutgers, but we've been able to cross-pollinate Rutgers Newark with New Brunswick, which I think is awesome for you guys. And what it is we came to the conclusion that when we deal with Wall Street firms, they were looking for certain skills. And it's interesting when you talk to them about the skills, some of them are very technical, but some of them are not. They're very much the soft skills that are very, very important. So yeah, you need to be able to dissect financial statements and understand what a profitability is and what a balance sheet looks like and things like that. You need to be very, very proficient in Excel, but you also need skills of being able to communicate, right? Being able to talk to people, being able to be mentored. So we started this program and it's done very well on this Road to Wall Street. It says here approximately 55 sophomores. So you apply to this at the end of your senior year, and it starts with sophomores. But from what I've heard, I think they may be upping to 55 because there's been such demand. I think my understanding, we've had maybe 300 to 400 applicants, and we just don't have as many spots. So we're trying. It's fairly competitive, as you can tell by the numbers I threw out. So I think we're upping it from 55. I heard 75-ish, but from the program manager on this one. So some of the program highlights on the Road to Wall Street. You get one-on-one counseling with the program director who runs the program. You get summer training and preparation. So you actually have to do some things in the summer that will help you prepare to start to differentiate yourself. We have fall financial modeling and valuation course. So we have a course where you will learn about how to model the financial future of a company and how do we come up with a valuation. This relates back to those IPOs I talked about. Like, how did we know Zoom was supposed to be $36 a share? How do we get that number? Or Facebook at 38. So we learn about how to come to those numbers. We get peer and alumni mentor match. So you will get matched up with upperclassmen as mentors, but also mentors who are in the business community. And then there's other extracurricular involvement that occurs. So I will give to Dean Foster and also put in the chat room the link to this presentation. But if you click on the hyperlinks here, you can get more information about the Road to Wall Street and see a video about the Road to Wall Street. Again, a very, very cool program that we have here for for our finance majors, but I want you to know it is not just finance majors. It's actually for all types of majors. So we just don't get finance majors in here. It's opened up to the full university. And that's probably why we get so many applicants. But in saying that, we're probably more finance major centric, but we could have an engineering major in there, or a chemistry major can also be in there. And lastly, I just want to put in here that if you have any questions, any further questions at all, here is my email address. So if it's anything really specific to the finance major, I want you to feel free to email me whenever you want. At this time of my life, I'm just home looking at my computer all day, right? So I will be more than happy to get back to you. And then I have Dean Foster's email, which many of you probably already have. But feel free to reach out to Dean Foster on any questions. She's going to be really good on understanding those core requirements and those preliminary requirements getting in, and also kind of the transfer process, right? If I talked about that, I'd give you wrong information. And lastly on here, I know you have some other sessions popping up. Dean Foster, we're not the last.
We have got one tomorrow night about accounting, and all of next week. There's several exciting. We have OCM coming up, and we have marketing, supply chain. There's a lot of I've added a few just with me. If you're undecided, you still don't know what major you want to do, it's right in there. We have our big admit day tomorrow. So if you haven't decided whether you want to commit yet, obviously tomorrow it's all live. There are some pre-recorded sessions, but as you can see, I've added there's a lot of different exciting sessions, and the links on the website actually work now. So
all right, that's good.
Very good.
Yeah. So I think so this is the website, and again, I'm going to put in the chat room the link to my presentation where you can get access to these hyperlinks. And again, just like I think many of you, I guess, who are on here, you clicked on finance, joined a session. That's how you got in. So there's other sessions here, and as you're exploring what you want to do when you grow up, I think it's probably good to hear some of these stories and spend a little time doing that. And then you can get back to Netflix and watching, like I'm doing, all the Ozarks that are out there. Okay. So with all of that, I don't know if there are any questions that anybody has. I'm going to stop sharing. If anybody has any questions.
If you're interested in asking questions, all you have to do is unmute this button, and please, by all means, don't be shy.
I actually do have a question. So this summer, I'm going to be taking calculus at Hudson County. So do I need to take pre-calculus, or is it applied calculus? Is that like the same, or?
So Hudson County College actually just has more limited, they don't have as many offerings. They really just have one calculus class. That will be fine. That will absolutely satisfy, so don't worry. What we call applied calculus is actually, because I was a biochem major, so I can tell you I had to take 3 calculus courses, Calc 1, 2, and 3. And if you want to know what a rough life is, that's a very rough life. Applied calculus is a little bit watered down. That's why we call it calculus for business. It's not calculus for STEM majors. But some of the community colleges have that distinction and others don't. Unfortunately, Hudson just has Calc 1. But if you take that, you'll be fine. You need a C or better grade. And because you're being a finance major, it will put you at an advantage. Because then in the fall, we will be able to register you for finance. Without the calculus, we would say, okay, take calculus in the fall, do finance in the spring.
Yeah, perfect. And I also did see calculus for business. So I did see that.
I lost it. I apologize.
Yeah, of course,
Did
no
you
problem. I saw that what they're offering at Hudson this summer is called Business for Calculus. I did see that, calculus for business, something like that. So can I take that instead of, Oh, perfect.
Oh, yeah. No, you should be fine. In fact, what I'm going to do, I can email you.
Mhm.
When we're offline, I'll email you the Hudson chart that has the
Perfect.
math course for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah,
Wow.
that's really awesome. Thank you. And I wrote a whole lot of notes.
Good.
Oh, good. Ask
So-
away. That's what we're here for.
Well, I just put the it's Mariah, right? It's Mariah.
Yes.
I just put the link in
Oh,
of the
cool.
presentation,
And
so you guys have that if you want. Okay.
yeah, awesome. Because I basically wrote the entire presentation, and then when you mentioned you're going to post it, I was like, oh my goodness.
And it's being
But-
recorded if you.
And I'm recording it. I haven't hit the stop button yet, so.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And we will have it posted online. Absolutely. Come Monday.
Yeah, awesome.
And we
I will
have a
definitely.
question in the chat. When do we decide which track we will choose? So I think Dean Foster, that's probably more you or Professor Richter.
That's an excellent question. You will have 6 months because remember, you're going to be taking finance as your business core class as a finance major.
Mhm.
And pretty much you're going to have to make a decision because if you don't make a decision and you delay it by 6 months, it will put you off by 6 months. So technically, while you're taking finance in your first semester, you'll be taking other business core classes. If you decide I still need more time to figure out the track, then in the spring, you can complete an additional number of business core. But I'm going to defer to my 2 expert students. I think you really should be ready. I think after you take the finance course, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're going to want to do.
Mhm.
And I think too, if you are first, like he says he's first year, so I think transfer students it's different in first year. So I think first year I came right from high school to Rutgers Business School. So I think I declared right away for finance, but I know right around sophomore year, I believe by the end of sophomore year, it's really when you want to have that locked down because then you'll start seeing, as you saw in the presentation, at the beginning, you're really only going to have like 3 classes at Rutgers Business School, and you're not going to be there as much. You're going to be kind of spread out on all the Rutgers North campus. But as you go along, you will then start to see, okay, I'm spending more time at the business school. I'm taking more business classes, and you'll kind of see that progression happen. So you will definitely, I think it's sophomore, probably by end of sophomore year, you're going to want to you're going to probably want to meet with your advisor. I do at least 2 to 3 times a semester, if not more. But you will want to make sure that by the end of that sophomore year, you have declared your major, and then as well, if you want your concentration, whatever it may be, you have that declared. So that way, when you start your junior year and you have your planning for your next semester, it's all set. So that would probably be around now. I know they're starting to do fall registration planning is coming out soon. So for those that are planning for next semester. So I would definitely say probably by, at least for me, I know and other people that I've known, they try to get that in by the end of their sophomore year. I don't know about Mustafa.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty standard as well, sophomore year. I think one of the greatest things that I experienced at RBS was that I was able to take like accounting and all these business courses very quickly in comparison to other schools. So, right now I'm a junior taking like pretty advanced level finance courses, and I should be done with it like probably I don't know, next semester, or I could have been done with it earlier as well. So you have that chance there to take those classes early, and I think it sets you at a better advantage than other business school students who might be taking their classes all in junior and senior year.
Right, right. And then in addition, you're luckier if you're coming in as a first-year student because you have the largesse of 4 years. Transfer students, you hit the ground. You really do hit the ground running. You have to have everything lockstep because every time I meet a new transfer student, they always say to me after I review their credits, okay, so when am I graduating, right? So you already have in your mind, I'm going to start this date, but when am I going to finish? And I don't blame you. You're on a moving train. So you really have to lock everything up by the end of your first semester if you're a transfer student.
And I just want to say one thing. I think I don't think it's almost not fair, right? We ask you at a young age to figure out what track you want, right? And you haven't experienced things. So it's to me, it's unfair, but you have to do it because there's a time constraint. And so what I think this would be helpful, and Mustafa and Evan, you can either agree or disagree. Talk to people. Talk to people about what a day in the life is like, whether you're on the capital market side in the banking or on the corporate finance side, or if you're in financial planning or real estate. Meet your professors. Talk. We want to talk to you. Okay. It's much more exciting having a student come to my office and just chit chat about life than it is for me to go through a, chapter 8 presentation. And I think the value for the student is it starts to give you direction on what you may like. So there is a lot of pressure, I think, on a young person to pick, what are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to be? The more you talk to people, the more you can zero in. Get involved in these clubs. Talk to the upperclassmen. Talk to students who have had internships. So you've met two people right here. Evan has been working for this private company, but you got Mustafa, who's on his 3rd internship this summer, right? So he has seen corporate finance. He's going to now get into banking, and he did personal finance the first. And I think you learned, Mustafa, what you don't like, and that's fine, right? Which may have been the first 2 interns. Not you weren't upset with the internships. You just said, I don't think it's what I want to do. Right. So that's very important. So think about that when you get to college. Use your resources, and it's not just what's in the classroom.
The best thing about finance has to be that like there's so many sections in it that you could like focus on, which is amazing because it gives you variety, but at the same time it's challenging because it's like, what do I like, what do I don't like? And I would echo what Professor Richter was saying, that it's all about experiences, and if you can't do an internship in every single one, but the second best thing is to talk to people who have done them. I love Rutgers Business School because of the simple fact that it's really easy to talk to people. People are not like we're competitive candidates for sure, but not competitive or against one another. And we're very open to communicating. And I remember as a freshman, I tried to leverage that quality about Rutgers Business School to talk to the seniors who had been through 4 years already in order to get a better understanding as to what I should be doing going forward.
Yeah, it's like Mustafa said and Professor Richter said, it's all about getting to talk to people and figuring out, do I want to go this way or that way? I know for myself, I did kind of what Professor Richter suggested, and I did the financial institutions and markets and investments first. And then I said, I think for me, the best decision was to go down the financial planning route. And I love the route. I love everything I'm learning. It's not just something that will help me. It helped me on the personal side as well. You learn in that track, you can learn a lot for yourself that you can use, just in your daily life. So it's not just something that you can apply in the workplace, but you can really help grow yourself as well. And I really feel like that's as well as what education is for. It's not just to help you in whatever job you do, it's to help you grow yourself as a person. And that's what education is for in general. But yeah, like Mustafa said, just, get to talk to people. Rutgers Business School is a great school. I decided to go to Rutgers without even deciding to go on a visit. I just went outside and I saw the building. I'm like, yep, this is it. And so I went, and I'm glad. It's the greatest decision I did. There's a lot of people, my closest friends. Some of I know for 4 years. I've known Mustafa, I think, for almost 2-3 years now. We've known each other. So I've known him pretty much the whole time he's been there. So you'll learn to see, a lot of the same faces, especially once you get into your core classes, and you'll really start to know this is what I want to do. And like you said, there's many different things you can do with it. You can take it, into the banking side. You can take it into the personal finance side, and do what Professor Richter does with financial planning, as a financial advisor. In my company, even in IT, on the IT side, we hire a finance guy for our ERP. So for those of you who don't know, enterprise resource planning system. So I mean, it's just, there's a broad range of stuff that you could definitely use. I even involved with some finance in our company. I involved with a lot of the financial aspects of the company, even from just an IT perspective. So, I mean, there's always finance and different routes that you guys can definitely use. So it's never closed off to, or you're never pigeonholed to one way or the other. There's many different routes you can go. So that's a great thing. And Rutgers Business School and the advisors and the professors, they're just really, really good on helping you get there. And Professor Richter is a great professor. He'll definitely, help you with that, and he'll, always ask you questions on, what do you need help in? Is there anything you need help with? He'll always give you guidance to where you want to go. And just in general, the staff there is amazing. So I would definitely say if you're considering going to Rutgers Business School, it's a very, very good school to get, plus the education and the opportunities that you'll be involved with just is second to none.
And I also do have a question, and I noticed that it was in the goodness gracious, the corporate finance actually. So I work for Coach, and it's a leatherware bag, like bag company. So I was talking to my manager, and because it's business, all the time, and making sure we reach our goals. So I wanted to know, like, in retail stores, how does like finance relate to the retail world in terms of like I can't really explain it, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, well, so let me give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So Coach, right, they may have their stores, they have their product, right, that they sell. But there's obviously, they need to be able to fund that operation, right? So if they're funding a retail store, that store has some fixed costs, like the rent or whatever it may be. It has some variable costs, depending on how they pay their salespeople. I don't know if they pay them commissioned or they pay them flat salaries. So we look at the cost structure of a business, right? And from finance, we will do that to understand the relationship between those costs that are variable to whether a sale is made and some costs that are just always fixed, like rent. And then a company like Coach is looking to grow, like I think all companies are looking to grow. The finance, on the corporate finance side, we will look at that and try to understand, like, where are the best opportunities for growth? Right? Is it, maybe it's not on the retail side, right? On the retail brick and mortar side, maybe it's on the retail web side, maybe it's other things, other ways of distribution. So the finance people, they have to work. A good finance person is not someone who's really spends their time just dealing with numbers. They really need to understand the operation, because an operation, people are making decisions and they're making transactions. And in finance, we kind of sum it up. Definitely the accountants sum it up. So I always look at finance as sort of we take what the accountants did, which are tracking all the sales, let's say at Coach, the expenses for Coach to get the profitability at Coach. And then us finance guys, we put that in our finance crystal ball and we forecast out the future, right? Based upon what happened in the past. So the accountants are the guys, are the scorekeepers. The finance guys take that and then they work strategically with marketing, with supply chain, right? With management to figure out strategically where we need to go. And then if we need to, let's say Coach wants to grow 20%. Well, they probably can't. They may need on their own. They're going to have to get some money to help do that. So the finance people will then figure out where is it that we get the cheapest money and the type of risk that we want when we get that money. And so the finance people are there really to help drive the business in relations to working with supply chain and marketing and advertising and sales. Like, that's very, very important. So when I was a CFO, I spent very little time putting together financial statements. It was more about the strategic direction of the business when you get to that level. So
Perfect. Thank you.
okay, good.
Any other questions? I don't see anything written in the chat room. Oh, it says here, living on campus, is it expensive?
Well, actually, Gabe asked the question before that. He was asking, how does it feel to get involved on campus as a commuter?
So I can answer, and then I'd love for you guys to answer. we have, first of all, probably 67%, and it's a little bit higher, I think, last year, but on average, 67% of our students are commuter students at RBS in Newark. So you are not alone. We have a daily, robust offering of all kinds of activities that are not only come out of our office, the undergraduate office and the graduate office, but in addition, the student orgs, the different organizations that you would like to get involved with, including the finance club, etc. All those clubs have daily activities, and they invite corporate sponsors to come in and provide those kinds of activities for you. You will never be alone, and that third floor lounge is constantly in use. And I would say it's where, besides your classes, it's through those kinds of activities and club-related activities, what we refer to as the business org activities. That's where you're going to meet a lot of your lifelong friends. And I don't know if Mustafa and Evan, if you want to refer to that as well, what your experience has been.
Yeah, so I've commuted for all 4 years. So I'll be graduating this year. So I've commuted for all 4 years. So as a commuter, I would definitely say you try to get involved as much as you can. I know for myself, right, I make sure I have my set schedule. I know when I work, I know when I have classes. And then there's, they do a great job during, free periods on Mondays. There's a lot of clubs that host events. Just in general, there's some evening events as well. So they do make it very, very accessible to those commuter students. And you'll see as you get on campus, like Dean Foster said, that a lot of the people you will meet are commuters like yourself. So they have that like-mindedness of, okay, there's other commuters out there as well, and they know when they are making these events that they try to take a lot of different people into consideration. So it's definitely not difficult to get involved on campus. People understand you are, majority, 2/3 of our campus commute to campus. So it is definitely, I would say, something very, very easily to get involved in. A lot of the people there understand that there are other things that you necessarily have to attend to, such as your job or you have classes and stuff like that, and that you're not living on campus per se. So when you interact with people at the business school, the different orgs, it really doesn't come up, I would say, too much. But yeah, a lot of the times they are thinking like-minded, and it's very easy. You'll see as you start to go along that the commuting back and forth most of the times you'll be there when events are occurring. But I have gone back to campus from my job for events, and you'll want to go back to campus for events, which is the great thing too, is you'll want to go back. So, and even if you're off campus, you'll be like, oh, I really want to go to that event, because that's just the kind of event that Rutgers will host, and you'll see you really want to interact with those people, like the dean said.
Yep.
That third floor lounge is always packed with students, and you often see times, a lot of students will be interacting with each other, and those groups will form and stuff like that. So it's always bustling and bustling, especially that free period on Monday. So.
Yeah, I would echo that. Even though I live on campus, and I have that advantage of like always being there, it's catered toward commuter students, like Evan and Dean Foster were saying. That being said, it also depends on how you schedule yourself, right? So if you leave during the day, like a block empty, that's more time for you to engage with students and more time for you to do like things on for your club or whatever that you're involved in. And stepping away a little bit away from the business school, like RBS has amazing clubs, but in addition to that, on the Rutgers Newark campus, there are other like clubs that you can get involved in. And we also have like fraternities and sororities. And that being said, like you don't have to live on campus to be a part of those activities at all. I spend a lot of time at the business school, but in addition to that, like sometimes I like to hang out in Samuel's Plaza, which is more on main campus when the weather's nice and stuff like that. So it really depends on yourself in terms of how do you free up your schedule in order to be involved on campus.
Great. And I just want to add, that was excellent what the students just said. It's so true. You really make your life at Rutgers. We will provide for you all the resources, all the tools. I mean, from 8:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday, and even Saturdays, there are events running. I mean, it's really like a hotel almost. You have to really book the third floor lounge almost a year in advance to have all the activities to fit in. Monday and Wednesday there are 2 dedicated free periods. Monday it's in the morning, 11:30 to 12:50, and then Wednesday it's in the afternoon, 2:30 to just about 10 minutes of 5. So the reason you have a free period is for club activities, so that they can schedule activities so classes are not booked during that time. So keep that in mind. You know, I know sometimes if you're at a community college, you schedule your classes very close together, and then when your classes are over, you dash. You're missing so much more of a campus life when you do that. So we discourage that at Rutgers. We really try to keep you very active and very busy.
And Newark has a lot to offer as well. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times throughout the 4 years I've been there that I've just gone out into Newark with my friends and just, you know, had some lunch here and there. You know, the business school is on one part of Newark, and then, you know, you walk a little bit and you're on main campus. So it is very stretched out. It's nice too in that sense because you get to see more of the city. And in general, like Dean Foster said, they do keep you very, very encased in that that atmosphere there at Rutgers Business School. And Newark does a great job in hosting us in that city, and they do offer plenty of different variety of places for us to eat, you know, socially interact, and it's just a great environment to be in. You're able to really kind of have that college experience, even though you are commuting to that school, right? You may not live there full time, but you still are getting that environment where, you know, I want to interact with all these students. There have been times, you know, I commute, but I've stayed there, you know, from 8:30 to 9 o'clock at night, even though I don't have classes. I only have maybe 2 classes during that time period. But it's just, you know, that's just the environment that is provided, and it makes you want to kind of be there more and interact more with the students and just in general the environment that there. So it does, and Newark, like I said, does a great job in hosting us and giving us that opportunity to be really, you know, have a great backbone there as well.
And a question I do have is Excel. I am not the best at Excel. So I wanted to know, is that something that I would have to, you know, like teach myself, or does like classes, or are you doing Excel in, you know, in the courses?
So that would be me. I actually I teach Excel for base, so I'm in charge of that.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so base does do Excel workshops every semester. Next semester, we're not 100% sure who's going to be teaching it, but usually we have 2 teachers. This semester, we actually had to book 2 rooms for Excel at one point. I think we had 120 students over
wow.
1 week. So it does get filled up. But yes, we do Excel. We teach you basics. We teach you, you know, the stuff you're going to need to learn. So the people I've kind of, you know, I'm going to have teach next semester, they will kind of echo what I've kind of taught. And, you know, it is very good because we give you what you need to get in the workplace. We give you VLOOKUPs. You need to know how to do VLOOKUP, pivot table, the basic information you're going to need to know. And I also get, you know, students that want to, you know, they say, is there anything else I can go out and learn? I said, yeah, you can go on YouTube. YouTube is your best source of information. Just type in Excel. There's videos, plenty of videos. I go on there probably every week, and I try to find something new to learn and teach myself. So yeah, we definitely do that. And there's not just Excel, but there's a bunch of soft skills. Mustafa, I think you guys at Alpha do a bunch of some of that too as well, right?
Yeah, so in Alpha, you know, Base is known for their Excel workshops. They do it every year. Alpha would never try to infringe on that. We do more focus on the soft skills. You know, we try to give students opportunities to network with professionals. We try to go through like how to network with professionals, try to make people feel comfortable with that, how to do informational phone calls with people you've never met before, and things, just of that nature, or, virtual interviews are very new, and things that companies are expecting from you. So we touch upon a lot of that stuff, and you'll find that all the clubs at Rutgers Newark Business School are there to like personally develop every single like student that's a part of the club, which is like an amazing factor about RBS. And in addition to that, I would just say like for Excel, you'll definitely learn through MIS. MIS covers some Excel as well. I take corporate finance with Professor Kapowitz. She makes us do everything in Excel. And then in addition to that, I think the internships that you have, like, don't worry about it too much. Definitely learn the basics, definitely like, learn from base and things like that. But the internship you have will probably have some training around that. And the best way to learn is by doing. At least for me, I learned on the job at AltFat, well, at my first internship, and it gave me, the skills that I needed going forward for every other internship. And I just wanted to also acknowledge Diana's question about living on campus. She asked if living on campus was expensive. And the tuition, the room and board cost is like standard, right? Can't get anything around that. And then it really depends on you after that, right? So if you want to buy a meal plan, if you're not a first year, it's not required. So, first year you have to buy a meal plan, you have to go to the cafeteria and things. But after that, it's really about you and what you do personally. That will then translate into how much life on campus will cost. So, I think in those terms, like it depends on you, like how much you're eating, how much you're going out, what you're doing with your friends. But I would say that living on campus is a great experience. I, for one, when I was in your guys' shoes, didn't even think about living on campus. I thought I was going to commute like 100%, but it just kind of worked out in the sense that I got a scholarship to live on campus. So I was like, okay, well, why not? But it has been like a life-changing experience. I would urge you guys, if you could, to try and do it, no matter where you guys end up going. But I don't think it takes, it doesn't take away from the experience. It's what you make of it. Like we were saying before, like majority of Rutgers Newark students are commuters, and we do host like events and make your experience catered around that.
We're really coming down to the final moments of this session. Are there any additional questions?
No, I said my questions. Yeah.
All right.
Well, we thank you. Thank you so much. Big applause for our speakers. You were outstanding as always.
Yep. Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Mustafa. Appreciate it.
Okay.